Christian parenting.
You woke up today and said, this is the day. I am going to have so much self-control and I'm going to ignore all of the distractions and focus completely on homeschool. And it's going to be so good. And there's going to be so much peace in our home. And then within a few minutes, you've gotten distracted. Or maybe it's an hour or so. You had a good solid hour and got distracted. I know how it is. We all deal with it. There's so much going on in the world and so many things that are pulling our minds away from the good work that is in front of us. But today's episode, my goal here is to help you identify your biggest distractions right now and then give you steps to resolve those so that you can then focus on what is right in front of you, on your home education and the Christian motherhood of your children this day, and be 100% present right there in this moment, this minute right now with your kids, because that is what your heart truly wants. You know that is what God wants too. He has given you these precious souls and you have this time to devote to their home education. And I'm so glad that you are doing so, but there's just a lot of distractions. And I want to remind you, as we get into more of the depth, into the meat of this episode, that Jesus says in John 14:27, he says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you." He didn't say, I'm going to leave you all this worry and I'm going to leave you all this stress and all of this commotion. No, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you, because the world's going to offer you some peace. They're going to say they've got peace for you, but that is not the peace that passes all understanding. Absolutely not. Goes on to say, "Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." And when we have so many distractions, I know for myself, when I get to the end of the day and I was distracted, did not stick to my plans, did not stick to the good things that I knew I needed to do, at the end of the day, my heart was troubled. And I think you feel that as well. So let's get into this now. We're going to identify some biggest distractions that you're going to face and you do face every day, as well as some distractions that your kids face. Because let's be honest here, that can cause there to be disturbances in the day and not to have peace in the day. And so then I'm going to give you some steps on how to resolve them, because I really want you just to be there and to have peace. Because what better way to lay our heads down at the end of the day and go to sleep and just have that peace that Jesus leaves with you. Let's get into it now. Thank you for hitting play on this podcast episode. This is Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, and I am your host, Leigh Nguyen. So glad that you are here. And I am a homeschool mom, just like you, maybe like you. I wasn't planning on homeschooling, but I look back and I'm like, it was just the best decision ever. And I'm just like, thank you, Lord, every day for leading me into that decision. Were there times that I wanted to quit and give up? Absolutely, yes. But in my sane moments, I would say to my husband, do not let me quit, no matter what I say. And he's like, all right, aye, Captain, gotcha. And so in those moments, he would not say, okay, go ahead, that's fine, you can quit. He would say, how can I help? What can I do? And what are some things we can resolve? And how can we kind of pivot and change so that we can make this work for this season? So that at the end of the homeschooling journey, I wasn't a crazy lady. And I'm at the end, and I don't think I'm a crazy lady. I don't know. They might say something different. But anyway, I'm glad that you are here for this episode. Let's get into today's topic. One last thing before we do get into that topic, I wanted to share with you an event that is happening next month. Teach Them Diligently is going to be occurring on May 7th through 9th in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And guess what? I'm going to be there. I'm going to have a table, and I would love to be able to meet you, to interact with you, and we'll do like a little meetup. I'll share some information about that at some point here. But if you are going, send me an email. Let me know so I can put together that information and get it directly to you. But if you are interested in attending Teach Them Diligently, it's just such a blessing when you get together with other Christian homeschool families who have a similar mission. You know, we have this one big mission and we just have like little different visions and different goals and different ways of accomplishing that. But you just get into a room, and when there's times of just worship and you're like, oh, these are my people. So if you have an opportunity, there are other conferences too. And Teach Them Diligently does have one in Branson, Missouri, but I will not be at that one. I will, however, be in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee from May 7th through 9th. And so you can go to Teach Them Diligently to get conference tickets. If you would like to go through my affiliate link for it, I would be so blessed and be very thankful for that. I will leave that link for you in the show notes. So hopefully I get to see you next month. And now, as promised, let's talk about the common distractions for you and for your children. Now, I'm going to share some ideas, then how to help you focus. I'm going to share a common distraction, and then we're going to talk about some ideas. And then I'll share another common distraction and share some ideas. So for you, I have 3. And then I'll close it out with just talking about your kids and some distractions that I noticed. Because remember, the goal is more peaceful homeschool days, just a calmer atmosphere, and one that just, even when tensions rise and even when there are frustrations, there is just this peace because you can deal with the issues at hand because you have taken care of some of those distractions. If you are so distracted and doing other things, when those come up, we don't fully deal with them, or we just feel like, okay, I was too distracted doing all this, and then some issues came up, and we were crying over math again, and the whole day's gone at this point. And so, all right, let's get into now how to eliminate distractions for a more peaceful homeschool day for you and your children. First, I want you to be honest with yourself. You probably already know what your trigger distractions are. You don't have to share that with anybody. You just need to be honest with yourself. God already knows. But the second part of that is to be honest with yourself and then surrender it to God. Maybe you don't quite see these as distractions, as things that are causing some disturbance, a lack of peace within your homeschool. And so maybe just right now say, all right, God, show me right now. Reveal if this is an area that I'm struggling in and that I'm in denial over, and then just surrender it to God. Okay, God, I need you to help me. Walk me through making the corrections and the right steps that I need for this distraction so that I can pour into our days and at the end of the day say, oh, thank you, Jesus, for your peace. I feel like I should insert a drum roll right now for the first one, and you probably already know what it is. It is your phone. Your phone is a huge distraction, and it is a huge distraction for everyone. I don't care what anybody says. Even if you don't have social media on your phone, it can still be a distraction. And when you do have social media or games or other ways of maybe Marco Polo and just all these things to be able to communicate with other people, it is a distraction. It's a distraction for me as well. So whether you are 25 or 50, which is my age, it still is a distraction. And we can see it so much in other people. And then we say to ourselves, oh, I have it under control. And maybe if you think you have it under control, maybe turn on your screen. The screen time will tell you how much time you're spending on different apps or just on your phone in general. That might be the wake-up call that you need, because you might think, oh, I'm not on there very much. And then you look at the end of the day and you're like, holy moly, I was on my phone for 4 hours today. What could I have done with those 4 hours? And I'm not saying that all that time is a waste of time, but our phones are a big distraction. Number one is you have to set boundaries. Set some boundaries around your homeschool time. Now, I have talked about time blocks, and I will put a link in the show notes that talks about time blocks. There's a lot more about time blocks and how to set that up in your homeschool blueprint. So if you're like, I need a little more than just this episode and that other one in the show notes, then go ahead and check out your homeschool blueprint. But you have to set some boundaries. Tell the people that are maybe texting you often or calling you often, look, these are my homeschool hours. And I know that there's such a push to be like, oh, it's just kind of a free for all. Okay, maybe there's a free for all, but you need maybe some undistracted time right then. Set some boundaries and just say, I will not be answering your phone call from this time to this time. Your husband, maybe he's at work and you can just say, listen, don't call me unless there's an emergency. There's something like really important. If it's just something you kind of forgot, you can text me and maybe you leave on. So, all right, let's get into silencing notifications. Maybe just put it onto, you can just put it on to like a sleep mode. I don't know if that's what it's called, but you can turn those certain notifications and only receive notifications from certain people. Maybe it's only phone calls from certain people, only text messages from certain people. Now, those still come through, the text messages. Your phone just isn't going to notify you. So you put it aside, put it into another room, and maybe your husband only is allowed to, the only one that you have available is for him to be able to call you. And so you'll hear that from another room, but all of those distractions of the text messages and everything won't be popping up. A huge thing to do. Go into your email and turn off the notifications so that the little box isn't popping up on your phone. That's a distraction. When you see out of the corner of your eye, like a little light, kind of, the light on the screen pop up, or social media. Absolutely. There is no reason for you to have notifications on for Facebook or Instagram because you don't know these people personally. I don't know you personally. I wish that I did. But even for my social media, please turn off the notifications for that. You don't need to know the moment I post something. When you have time, when it is a good time, you can go in and watch those stories and check up on people's posts. That's fine when you have that time set aside. But in the middle of a math lesson, you don't need to see that maybe your favorite homeschool account or maybe your favorite makeup account has posted a new reel. You don't need to know about that then. That takes your brain into another zone. Let's keep in the zone. Let's keep in that math lesson zone. So completely turn off those notifications. I think the only notifications I have are my text messages, my calendar, and then, I do have Facebook Messenger notifications. However, that is for Facebook Marketplace. And otherwise, I wouldn't ever check Facebook Messenger. I wouldn't even notice that there were any messages. But I'm currently right now, I've got a bunch of things listed. I am trying to clear out some things from the house. And so if someone messages me, I want to be able to get back to them soon because I would really like for them to come and purchase these things. So it goes both ways. If I'm looking at things and sending a message and I'd like to be able to hear this. So otherwise I don't get many messages on there, but those are the only notifications I have. Every single other app are silenced. And I've had that for years. And guess what? I'm alive and doing well, and you can too. And I definitely have more peace. I don't have that stress. When I have time, I go in and I check my emails, and then that is that. I move on. If you're waiting for an important email, it's okay to not know for a couple of minutes that it didn't come through, and you go ahead and check. Maybe there's an important email. You're like, okay, I need to check today every hour. Then check every hour real quick, see if that email came through, and then put the phone aside. But most of the time, we don't need to know the moment that email comes through. Okay, so you have set up some boundaries by telling people, you have your notifications silenced. Tell your kids that during these homeschool hours, this is a mom phone-free time. Guess what? They will hold you accountable. And even if they don't, I just remember being convicted that if I told them I'm not going to be using my phone during this time and then I picked up my phone, even if they didn't notice, I felt like their eyes were looking right at me like, Mom, like lasers on me, like, Mom, you said that you weren't going to be on your phone at this time. Tell your kids. It's okay for them to hold you a little bit accountable as long as they aren't getting rude about it or anything like that. But allow them to, know what your boundary is. And then pray for self-control overall. God, I'm surrendering this to you. Please just give me the self-control that I need. And the moment that you pick up your phone, when you aren't supposed to have your phone, you say, God, I need self-control right now. I want to go and check my Instagram. I want to check my email. I want to listen to that Marco Polo. I want to check to see that game, how my friend and I, it was her turn to play and now it's my turn. No, put it down and just pray. God, just give me self-control in this moment. Help this desire, this stress, this cortisol level that I want to check this, help this to go down, and put it down and walk away. It's going to feel hard at first. It's going to get easier and easier. And then hopefully get to the point where you don't feel like you have to check, knowing that you have time that you can check that. All right, done with the phone. Let's move on to your home. Our houses can be a distraction with all of the chores. Seeing, oh, this needs to be done. Oh, that paint needs to be touched up. Oh, the laundry has to be put away. Oh, there's toys everywhere. Maybe it's projects, or maybe it's just everyday type of chores that need to be done. Have a plan for when you're going to get that done. And that might not be during your homeschool hours. Maybe your plan is, okay, we need to get some things under control, or just this season of life, I really need more time and I need all hands on deck to help. And you might say, you know what, right now, we're going to do homeschool really well Monday through Thursday, or Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday, whatever days you want to choose. But one day a week, we are going to take those hours, maybe that 3-4 hours that we would have done on homeschool, and we are going to get this house under control. We're going to change the sheets, and we're going to do the vacuuming. We're going to wipe down the bathrooms. We're going to declutter. We're going to do all of the things during that time. Can you imagine then the rest of those other days, you feel like, oh, okay, this is good. But maybe that doesn't work for you. You might say, I would rather have my house kind of picked up throughout the week instead of taking one time to go ahead and do that. And maybe you like to do zones, or maybe you just like to do specific chores and everything. But if you have a plan, then that leads to knowing that you have time to get it done. Therefore, it doesn't have to be done during the homeschool hours. So that you can have that peaceful homeschool day with them, getting the lessons in, having those conversations and all that goes into it, knowing that it's okay. I know that there's a big, huge pile of laundry in the corner, but that laundry will be taken care of after lunch. We are now focused on our homeschool and our lessons. And we're not going to let that laundry pile, don't let it steal your peace, okay? If you're struggling with basically how to create a plan, that's what I do in the Tidy Home. I have been following the Tidy Home. I created it on my own, was doing it, and then decided to share it with everybody. I've kind of tweaked it and everything, but I've been doing it for a few years, and I don't even think about any of the chores that need to be done during our homeschool hours because I know that I'll get to it. Because again, those time blocks, I have that time set aside. I know what needs to be done, and it's kind of a fluid thing. It's not always I'm not like Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. I do this. I'm a type A person in some areas and type B in other areas. But the Tidy Home, I help you to create what is going to work for your family just at right now in this season. But so for your home and your chores, you have to have a plan, because then you know that there is time to get it done and it won't be a distraction for you during homeschool time. And now, what about that random to-do list? You know, those things that you need to do. For me, one of those random things on my to-do list right now is, as of the time of recording this, I'm like, oh, I got to get my snow tires off of my vehicle and get my regular tires on. So that's on my to-do list. Like, I got to call the shop and have that taken care of. So the random to-do list is just all of those little things that are in your mind that need to be done. You need to call and make an appointment. You might need to check up on some type of an appointment. Maybe you need to drop something off at the post office. It's just random errands and just a random to-do list that is just in your mind. And that's why I do like a random to-do list, because it gets it out of my mind. So here is how you eliminate those distractions when you're thinking, oh, I have to go and do this. Write it down. Get it out of your head. Put it someplace that you know then that you will then follow up with it. The distraction of thinking, oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. Oh, what about that? Is taking your brain to a non-peaceful place. You aren't 100% present and focused during maybe that math lesson or that history read aloud, because you're thinking about all the other things that you need to do. And we don't want to do that. So I think it's perfectly fine to have a random to-do list somewhere nearby, a piece of paper. You can write those things down the moment it pops into your head and then move on. For me, I found that especially when I had all three of my kids and homeschooling and just life was crazy and hectic, for some reason on Sunday mornings, I would then be flooded with all those things that I need to do. And I'm like, Lord, I'm trying to focus on the sermon here and think about it. And so I would just have a piece of paper and I would just write down just like 2 words to kind of remind myself to then really think about that and put a plan into place when I would get home. And I would just write it down. And then I was 100% present to what was going on in the sermon when I would just get those couple of things out of my head. I think it's just because the time was just quiet. There weren't other distractions. And so therefore these things would flood into my brain. And so I often think that it happens during homeschool too. When we're sitting there, we're like, okay, we're doing the math lesson here. Okay. Oh no, I have to do this. I have to make an appointment at the vet for the dog, all those things. So have some place to write it down and then keep that list handy. But don't stress about the fact that you're not doing those things right now. And then set aside time for you to tackle it. Again, those time blocks. Here is something that I really have learned, because I will write things on there. And when you write something on a to-do list, everything appears equal, but there's always that one or two things that you don't want to do. For example, I do not like to make phone calls. So making that phone call to set up an appointment for my car and the tires, I'm like, I do not want to do that. However, when I decide to, okay, I'm going to do that 1 or 2 things that I really don't want to do, I'm going to do them first. And I do them. And guess what? Everything else on that random to-do list seems much easier to do because I took care of the ones that I had been procrastinating. And I'm like, okay. So prioritize then what you can do. This to-do list doesn't mean that it has to be everything done today. Prioritize what actually does need to get done today and understand that there's only so much time in a day. All right, before we close out, real quick, we are going to cover some distractions that your kids might be experiencing, and their lack of peace then leads to a lack of peace overall in your homeschool. Episode 451 is going to be a gem for you. That was just a couple back when you have kids who are just taking forever to do their homeschool. And so tie that in with this one. So let's talk about creating an environment that works for your kids, not against them. A lot of parents are like, oh, they're doing their math lesson in their bedroom. Maybe that works for some kids. That did not work for my kids. They had to earn the right to be able to do some of their independent lessons in their bedrooms. And this was not until maybe middle school, definitely in high school. But then sometimes in high school, they're like, I can't do it in my room. I get too distracted. They have the wisdom and maturity to say, you know what? I thought that would be cool, but I'm too distracted by all the things that are in there that I would rather be doing than this math lesson or this language arts or writing this paragraph that I'm supposed to write. So if you are finding that they are distracted and they're doing the lessons in their room, you got to pull them out of the room. They can't be doing it in their bedroom then. And that's okay. I think it's perfectly fine. And so in my family, they had to earn the right to be able to do that. And I had to be able to see that they were doing their work. They were getting it done in a timely manner and they were doing it well. So making an environment that works for them overall. So let's talk about the fact that, okay, they're not doing it in their room. They're just somewhere else. You might need to declutter a bit in your house. You might need to eliminate things that are going to be distraction. What you can do is you can have maybe specific subjects in certain areas. For example, dining rooms tend to be kind of boring for kids, right? There's not really much in there except for maybe some decorations and maybe some cabinets. I don't know. It's typically not a place that a lot of kids, that there aren't really toys, that aren't really attracted to the dining room. So that might be a good place to do some of those subjects that they can easily let their minds wander and get distracted. So maybe do the math in the dining room and then switch out for going into the living room to do their reading or their writing, because that feels like a more creative and cozy place to do this. And your kids might not always appreciate the change that you might be making. You might say, you know what, this isn't working for you to do your math in your living room while the little kids are playing around or doing it in your bedroom. They might push back a little bit, but your goal is to eliminate that distraction so they can do their work and do it well. And then you guys can have a more peaceful days. And so there might be a little contention at first, but just say, can you trust me on this? And let's make this change. Remember, you are the parent. All right. There's been a lot in this episode, and I hope that it has been helpful for you. Earlier, I had mentioned about the tidy home, if you're looking for a way to kind of figure out that chore system. And I know that a lot of people right now are talking about spring cleaning, but guess what? I don't necessarily do spring cleaning. I have that kind of stuff spread throughout the year, and therefore my spring doesn't feel hectic. I would rather spend my spring cleaning outside in my gardens, cleaning up from the winter and planting pots of flowers and who knows, all the things, so that I can enjoy it over the summer instead of having all of these indoor chores. I do a lot of those types of things over the winter while we're snowed in. And that was because I took a look at what do I really want to get done and figured out what's going to work best for me, what's going to actually give me that peace, what is actually going to help our family to thrive. And therefore, I don't get all stressed about the spring cleaning that I know you'll see everywhere on social media that everybody's doing. And nothing wrong with that. If you like doing it during the spring, that's fine. My choice is not to. But I want to help you work on creating your chore system. You can get more information at the Tidy Home. So you can go to littlebylittlehomeschool.com/tidyhome. And the link is also in the show notes. I hope that this episode has helped you to identify your biggest distractions and then give you some steps to resolve those.